we dive deeper into today's mystery, I want to take a quick moment to talk to all of you listening right now. Creating these long-form English practice sessions takes an incredible amount of research, writing, and technical work. Our goal is to provide you with the highest quality, slow English content to help you master the language while enjoying fascinating stories. If you are finding value in these lessons, the best way you can support our mission is by hitting that subscribe button and clicking the bell icon. When you subscribe, it tells the algorithm that this educational content is helpful, and it allows us to keep producing these massive marathons for you. We are building a community of dedicated learners here, and we would love for you to be a permanent part of the Dear English Batch family.
I completely agree, Emily. And to those of you who have been with us for a long time, thank you for your constant support. If you're listening to this on your mobile phone right now, just take 2 seconds to tap the like button. It's a small action for you, but it makes a huge difference for us in keeping this channel running. We put a lot of heart into these scripts to make sure they are engaging and useful for your daily practice. Also, don't forget to leave a comment below. Tell us which part of the story surprised you the most, or simply type "I am learning" so we know who is finishing these long sessions. Your engagement is what fuels our creativity. Now, let's get back to the mystery we were discussing, because things are about to get even more intense. Today's topic is the endless mystery of Oak Island. Topic: the Money Pit Treasure. Chapter 1: The Discovery and the First Shaft.
Welcome back to our Deep Dive series. Today, we are starting a journey that has lasted over 2 centuries. Imagine a small, quiet island off the coast of Nova Scotia, Canada. It's 1795. A young man named Daniel McGuinness is rowing his boat toward Oak Island when he notices something strange. On the southeastern end of the island, there is a massive old oak tree with a curious scar on one of its branches. Directly beneath that branch, the ground is sunken in, forming a circular depression about 13 feet wide. Daniel doesn't know it yet, but he has just found the entrance to what will become the world's most expensive and frustrating treasure hunt. He returns the next day with 2 friends, John Smith and Anthony Vaughan. They start digging, convinced they are about to find pirate gold. At just 2 feet down, they hit a layer of flagstones, stones that aren't native to the island. They pull them out and keep digging. At 10 feet deep, they hit a solid platform of rotten oak logs embedded into the sides of the shaft. They are thrilled. They think, "This is it. Someone hid something here and protected it with wood." They pull the logs out, but there is no treasure, just more dirt. They keep going. At 20 feet, they hit another oak platform. At 30 feet, another one. Every 10 feet, like clockwork, there is a man-made wooden ceiling. Eventually, the boys realize this project is much bigger than 3 teenagers with shovels can handle. They stop, but the legend of the Money Pit is born.
It's incredible to think that those 3 boys walked away, but the story didn't end there. In 1803, a group called the Onslow Company took over. They were professional excavators, and they were determined to reach the bottom. They picked up where the boys left off and continued to find these oak platforms every 10 feet. But things started getting even weirder. At 40 feet, they found a layer of charcoal. At 50 feet, they found a layer of putty. At 60 feet, they found coconut fiber. Now, think about that for a second. Coconut fiber in Canada in the early 1800s? The nearest coconut trees are thousands of miles away in the Caribbean. This proved that whoever built this pit had access to international resources. But the most famous discovery happened at 90 feet. They hit a large, heavy stone slab. When they pulled it up, they saw it was covered in mysterious symbols that no one could read. It wasn't English, it wasn't French. It looked like a secret code. According to later reports, the code was eventually translated to say, 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried. The workers were so excited they could barely sleep. They used a long iron probe to poke into the ground at the bottom of the pit, and they felt something hard. They were sure it was a chest. They decided to stop for the night and come back in the morning to pull up the gold. But when they arrived the next day, they were met with a nightmare. The pit, which had been dry for months, was now filled with 60 feet of water. They tried to pump it out, but the water level wouldn't budge. They didn't know it yet, but they had.
Chapter 2. The Genius of the Flood Tunnels. The water wasn't just rain or ground seepage, it was salt water from the ocean. This is where the mystery turns into a feat of engineering that seems impossible for the 1700s. The Onslow Company tried everything to drain the pit, but the more water they pumped out, the faster it flowed back in. Years later, another team discovered why. While exploring a nearby beach called Smith's Cove, they noticed that when the tide went out, the sand stayed wet and gulped air. They dug under the beach and found a massive layer of coconut fibre and eelgrass. Beneath that was a sophisticated drainage system, 5 stone box drains arranged like the fingers of a hand. These drains collected seawater and funneled it into a main flood tunnel that ran 500 feet through the island and connected directly to the money pit. It was a perfect booby trap. If anyone tried to dig deep enough to reach the treasure, the weight of the air would change, or they would pierce a specific point, and the ocean would gravity feed into the hole. The builders had designed a self-filling well. Every time a searcher got close, the island fought back. Even today, with modern industrial pumps, we struggle to keep the water out. This raises the biggest question of all. Who had the money, the time, and the advanced engineering knowledge to build a 500-foot underground canal and a 90-foot deep shaft with multiple layers of protection? It wasn't just a few pirates burying a chest. This was a massive construction project.
The theories about who did this range provide the minute probably 24 years. The many of what's really constructible to be easy because just public accident and minuters. 23 2004. 3000 was heavy probable to pumps to what was always there. The theory was discovered by who did this meeting 2014. The metal pumps was reclined by first case offering and minute had been built with money pit half. It was likely can becoming something just 20 foot make up 20 foot completely fond. The theory was not preventage between them and which was appreciate the more staking on 2005. Maybe the theory was truly much been with a roles what are the medidments in property p discovered anything that he was not, even quite a quickly through. The to media that just what was having pumpstable preventional providum because would build with money pit. Joined to include front cases with a smoke controlling persictation and Smith 2005. The mini for the island is the 2014 can build program. The voices was scripting forctivated in a minute, which was variabled. The theory was takes partly anywhere when can be something way for the minute, but they would smith that we wouldn't just creased from. The theory was to be the biggest question of the island, which the own flood did by Smith 2005 and some perfectly well, but additionally tell humans for free. Looking any different whatever was called more because the many of them. The theory was more than some pretty even pumpsable group. The many of this manage was to meet before with money pit in program and prevalently did. This was what the own more property of 2014. It was a big knowledge of the website. The one who looked anything was way from the minute between different pumps to its well and cruelly completely insane. It allowed that things may believe or revived from this, but it was picture to the rest that front. This hooks be believe a place from the logical foot perceptive every day. For dead gives this recently under wall and was not prepared to the illaport. Before it provide for accommodations through 4%, much finemanly did and quitatory spur percent. The many of this first weather is for gravard property can provide the people to make these before we torted 4% with the biggest businessing. The even all more to this, performed too much more. The rest first events for better in minute between privably on truly much with at great deep as proof the minute. You've seemed to one thing dids to repully out of you. The Oligan confirmed the tool interview of 2021 into a perch them, as well as a temperature was cruelly well. Where we loved, the long city once snow clear to probably close. Some people believe it was the Knights Templar. When the Templars were disbanded in the 14th century, their massive fleet and legendary treasure disappeared. Some researchers think they sailed to the New World long before Columbus and built the Money Pit to hide the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant. They were known for their masonry and engineering skills, which would explain the flood tunnels. Another theory points to the privateer connection. In the mid-1600s, the British government hired privateers to rob Spanish treasure ships. These men often had more gold than they knew what to do with. If a group of privateers wanted a communal bank where they could store their loot safely, Oak Island would be a perfect spot. But there's a third, even more fascinating theory: the Shakespeare manuscripts. Some believe that Sir Francis Bacon, who many think was the real author of Shakespeare's plays, built the vault to hide original documents that would prove his identity. They found traces of mercury in the pit, which was used back then to preserve paper and parchment. Whether it's gold, religious relics, or historical papers, the cost of building the pit likely exceeded the value of whatever is inside.
Chapter 3: The Knights Templar and Other Theories. Now that we understand the incredible engineering of the flood tunnels, we have to ask the most important question: who built this? The theories range from the logical to the completely legendary. One of the most popular theories involves the Knights Templar. In the 14th century, this powerful group of medieval knights was disbanded, and their massive fleet and legendary treasure vanished. Many researchers believe they sailed to the New World hundreds of years before Columbus and built the Money Pit to hide their most sacred relics, like the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant. The Templars were famous for their advanced masonry and underground construction skills, which would explain how such a sophisticated system was built. In English, when we theorize, we are using our imagination and facts to build a bridge to the truth. For our learners, words like disbanded, relics, and masonry are excellent additions to your high-quality vocabulary.
That is a fascinating theory, Emily. Another strong possibility is the privateer connection. During the 1600s, the British government hired privateers, who were essentially legal pirates, to rob Spanish treasure ships. These men had more gold than they could safely carry. If a group of privateers wanted a communal bank where they could store their loot together, Oak Island would be the perfect hidden spot. But there is a third, even more surprising theory: the Shakespeare manuscripts. Some believe that Sir Francis Bacon, who many think was the real author of Shakespeare's plays, built this vault to hide original documents that would prove his identity. They actually found traces of mercury in the pit, which was used centuries ago to preserve paper and parchment. Whether it is gold, religious artifacts, or historical papers, the cost of building this pit likely exceeded the value of whatever is inside. As you keep your mobile in your pocket and listen, think about which theory you believe the most. This analytical listening is the best way to move from a beginner to an advanced English speaker.
Chapter 4: The Mystery of the 90-foot Stone and the Curse. As the searchers went deeper, they hit a layer that changed everything. At exactly 90 feet, they uncovered a large, flat stone that was unlike any rock on the island. It was covered in strange carved symbols, circles, squares, and crosses that no one could read at first. This is what we call a cryptic message in English. For years, the stone sat in a local shop, used as a doorstep, until a professor finally decoded the symbols. The message allegedly said, 40 feet below, £2 million are buried. This discovery sent the world into a treasure-hunting fever. But every time someone got close to that 40-foot mark, the island's famous booby traps would trigger, and the pit would flood with seawater. This constant failure led to a darker legend, the Curse of Oak Island. The legend says that 7 people must die before the treasure is found. To date, 6 people have lost their lives in tragic accidents, from boiler explosions to mysterious gases deep in the shafts. In professional English, we talk about risk versus reward, and for these men, the reward of the treasure was worth the ultimate risk. As you listen, think about the word allegedly. We use it when a story is famous, but we don't have 100% proof. It's a high-quality word for any serious discussion.
The tragedy of the 6 deaths adds a heavy emotional layer to our story. It makes us wonder, is the island truly cursed, or is it just the result of dangerous engineering from hundreds of years ago? When we look at the 90-foot stone, we see a catalyst, something that causes a big reaction. That stone is the reason people are still digging today, 230 years later. For those of you with your mobile in your pocket, imagine the frustration of the searchers. They could see the symbols, they could read the promise of gold, but the ocean was standing in their way. In your English journey, you might feel like the ocean is blocking you sometimes, but like the treasure hunters, you have to find a new way to drain the water and keep moving forward. This chapter teaches us that even when a problem seems insurmountable, the human spirit refuses to give up.
Chapter 5. The Lead Cross and the 14th Century Connection. Now we move into modern times with the most incredible physical evidence ever found on the island, the medieval lead cross. A few years ago, using high-tech metal detectors, a small cross was found in a place called Smith's Cove. At first, it looked like a simple piece of jewelry, but scientific testing revealed something world-changing. The lead in that cross didn't come from North America. It came from a very specific mine in France that was active in the 1300s. This was a smoking gun, a piece of evidence that proves a theory. This cross suggests that someone from Europe, possibly the Knights Templar, was on Oak Island 200 years before Christopher Columbus ever set sail. For our English learners, the term provenance is a very high-quality word. It refers to the origin or the history of where an object came from. Finding the provenance of this lead cross has shifted the entire mystery from a pirate story to a medieval historical puzzle.
This lead cross is a game-changer for the Oak Island mystery. It links the island back to the theories we discussed in Chapter 3. If the Knights Templar were there in the 14th century, it explains why the flood tunnels were so advanced. They were the masters of building underground vaults. This discovery shows us that history is often much deeper than what we read in school textbooks. When we use analytical English to look at these artifacts, we aren't just looking at old metal. We are looking at a map of human migration. As you work or travel today, think about how one small object can change an entire story. Just like one new English word can help you unlock a whole new conversation. The lead cross is proof that if you dig deep enough, you will eventually find the truth.
Chapter 6. The Modern Search and the Final Archive. Today the search is led by 2 brothers, Rick and Marty Legina. They have spent millions of dollars using the most advanced technology on Earth, high-speed drills, sonar, and even expert divers who go deep into the dark, freezing water of the shafts. They haven't found a chest of gold yet, but they have found bits of ancient parchment, small garnets, and even human bone from 2 different continents. This has led to a new, fascinating theory. What if Oak Island isn't a bank, but an archive? Some believe it is a library of the world's most important lost documents, preserved in mercury deep underground. In English, an archive is a place where historical records are kept. If this is true, the value of the knowledge inside those vaults would be worth far more than any amount of gold or silver.
As we reach the end of this Oak Island marathon, we have to look at the legacy of the search. Even if the treasure is never found, The mystery itself has inspired millions of people to dream, to explore, and to study history. For you, the members of our Dear English batch, this story is a perfect metaphor for learning a language. It takes patience, it takes time, and sometimes the flood tunnels of grammar or pronunciation might slow you down. But if you keep your mobile in your pocket, keep listening to these high-quality stories, and keep digging into the vocabulary, you will find your own treasure, the ability to speak English with total confidence. We hope this 5-hour journey has helped you grow. Remember to keep practicing, keep listening, and we will see you in the next mystery.